We're talking the Philadelphia Eagles today. Let's get it on. What's up, everybody? Thank you for spending your evening with me. I'm blessed to have my man Joe Castro here with me today from Philly the podcast, also from the Best of Enemies podcast, Big Game James. How you doing today, bro?
I'm chilling, man, living the life. I appreciate you having me back on, man. Like we were saying before, it's been too long. So I'm excited to tell you how the Eagles are so great. It's going to be fun.
That's going to be the conversation today. All right. I like that. All right. Perfect, man. Yeah. So me and Joe know each other for a couple of years now. One of my favorite Eagles connects. I love talking to him about all things sports. He basically has his Philly the podcast. He has it behind the Best of Enemies podcast where he collaborates with Dallas Cowboys content creator Big Game James. I love that guy as well. Just to kind of start it off, I saw some pretty polarizing conversations the other day. Basically, I saw the conversation where it was Trayvon Diggs versus Darius Slay. What's good, man? What came about from that, man? How that conversation play out?
I love Big Game James, but sometimes he's a little bit, hard to shift his mindset, right?
Good,
I had him at number 7. He had him at, I think, number 11. Good for him. I think that it's a good conversation. I think what I will say that I took from it, and I think that what he took from it as well, because he did get to the point that he said, overall, if you're looking at body of work, then obviously he would probably take a Darius Slay. But no matter where you put him, I think that he was the oldest player on our lists. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Even when you get to 11, when you get to 12. So, it is a conversation that you can have. He also had Patrick Surtain over top of him. These are young guys that are coming into the league. It's fun to see all these young guys coming in and dominating so early. So it's cool. But at the same time, it's nice to see Darius Slay's name there. Even though we may have him a couple spots different, it's nice to see that, even other teams are able to kind of say, hey, even at his nice age, his older age, he's still aging like fine wine. You know what I'm saying? So
he had a good year last year. So it was good for him.
He definitely did.
All right, cool. I mean, that's all good, man. It's awesome. So we're going to talk all offseason, or we're talk all draft. We're talk what the best vibe of Philadelphia Eagles this whole podcast. But I like to kind of warm up my guests. I like to have a little bit of a joke and kind of get things going. So I got some trivia for you, Joe, if you're ready for this.
I hope so.
People in the chat can jump on this as well. So there's a couple softballs in here. There's a couple tough ones in here as well. All right, you ready for this? 5 trivia questions.
Let's go. Hopefully. I'm gonna look crazy if I don't get.
The chat will let us know. I'm seeing everything blow up over here. All right. First 2 questions are about Jeff Lurie, okay, the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles, right? All right. Jeff Lurie is worth $2.2 billion. That's his net worth, right? How did he accumulate all of his money in order to buy the Philadelphia Eagles?
Was he a capitalist? Was he a venture capitalist type thing?
He was, but what avenue? Do you know? Like, what business was he into?
I do, and I can't. Why?
Think about LA.
What, he wasn't in movies, was he?
He bought into movies. His whole family bought into.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, I knew that he was an investor in some stuff, but I didn't know that was like the main avenue. That's I didn't
know that either. That's something I learned today. I was trying to do some research before the show. So yeah, he basically him and his family basically put some money together. They basically bought into a movie industry and basically became a conglomerate, started to make a lot of money off of that. So I thought that's pretty interesting. All right, so I don't know. I want to break any Philadelphia Eagle hearts today. So let's take a look at this. Right? Yeah, we live, Richie. We're live right now. Baby, hit him up in the chat. So, all right. So Jeff Lurie wasn't always a Philadelphia Eagles fan. He actually had a number 1 team before that growing up. Do you have any idea about this?
Was it the Packers? I feel like he's old enough that. I feel like he's old enough that it better not be nobody in the NFC East. There's nobody in the NFC East, right?
It's not the NFC East. I'll give you one more guess. It's up in the Northeast. AFC team.
Patriots.
Yeah, man. So he grew up in Boston. He's a Boston guy. He actually was a Patriots guy growing up. So that's what he actually tried to buy the Patriots back in the day, but his family talked him out of it. So
I know he's a really good friend of Robert Kraft too. So that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay. Howie guessed the Ravens. Now yes, actually you're right about that, Howie. I did some research. So he was born in Boston area. He basically made a pitch to buy the Patriots. That didn't work. when the Ravens became a new franchise, who's considering buying them, but he ended up buying the Philadelphia Eagles. And man, he brought you all the Super Bowl, so good for him, right?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so this is tricky. This is a hard one, so I don't know if it's going to be hard. Like, I don't know how. Maybe you might be easy for y'all, but the Eagles fans out there, more touchdowns in their Eagles career, Brian Westbrook or LaShawn McCoy?
More overall touchdowns.
Overall.
Yeah, so I'll probably say Brian Westbrook.
100%, like a Brian Westbrook.
Yeah, because Westbrook caught everything, and between returns, he had that big miracle at the Meadowlands against the Giants. He had that punt return, bunch of reception touchdowns, bunch of rushing touchdowns. So yeah, but LaShawn's that dude. LaShawn was that guy.
LaShawn was that dude. So for real, so Howie knows what's up. Howie's answering all these questions correct in the chat. Good job, Howie.
Shout out to Howie.
Shout out to Howie, man. So yeah, so for one, as a Redskins Commanders football team fan for years, Westbrook, I forget if Westbrook and Deshaun Jackson were together, or was McCoy and Deshaun Jackson, but y'all, dude, there's a trio. It was like McNabb, Westbrook,
Shady,
Deshaun, yeah. It was Shady.
It was Shady at that time, dude. It's crazy too, because we didn't do anything with it. That's like, true. You know what I'm saying? That's the worst part of it. It's crazy, and I don't want to go on too much of a tangent with this, but like you look back at McNabb's career, right? They never gave him anything until we were ready to move on from him. Like we literally did not give him anything outside of Terrell Owens. I'll give you, can't lie there. But we get Jeremy Maclin, Deshaun Jackson, Shady. We get all these dogs when McNabb's like 40 years old.
Yeah, that's true.
It's ridiculous. It makes no sense.
100%. All right. Speaking of that, you kind of dropped. I don't want to ruin the answer yet, but you kind of are on the right path already. We have two more questions. I'm not going to put you in the hot seat for too much longer. All right. Next question. Which Eagle quarterback has the most career passing yards for the franchise?
In a single season or just like career?
For this whole career.
Probably McNabb.
Yeah, McNabb.
Yeah, I was like thinking like that feels too easy, but yeah, I was.
That is too easy, McNabb. And then last question. This is a little bit hard. Can you round out the top four? Like who else were the top four quarterbacks that basically had the highest passing yards?
Probably not in order.
Yeah, somewhere about order.
I'm guessing Ron Jarowski's in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Randall Cunningham, I'm assuming, is in there somewhere.
That's 1, 2, and 3. You nailed it. Okay. Last one's my boy now.
5. Carson, really?
Carson Wentz, baby. That's
I didn't know he was in the top 5. That's crazy.
Yeah, man.
And then Vic, maybe.
Vic is a little bit lower, I think. So, I don't know where he's a top 10 or something. So, Donovan McNabb had 32,000 passing yards. Ron Jaworski had 26,000. Randall Cunningham 22K. Randall Cunningham's a beast, man. People sleep on
Cunningham. He was.
And then finally Carson Wentz with 16K. So I was surprised by that. So
that's crazy. Yeah, I'm surprised by that. I mean, but it's a different game. It actually brings up, and I'm sorry to kind of this
go for it.
That came up. Yeah, this is a question that came up, and now that we're actually talking about this, how special to you is 4,000 yards? Because I was talking about this online, and people are talking about Jalen Hurts, obviously, with the Eagles, and if he hits 4,000, that's a huge milestone. And I think it is nice. Don't get me wrong. It's definitely an accomplishment, but with 17 games, how the game's played nowadays, is 4K still, I feel like 4K is the new 3K, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? It's like something you should be able to hit.
I know what you're talking about. I think it's something that you should be able to hit, but I'll try to think of a good number. I'd say 4,000 is almost like 1,200 rushing yards, right? Like something you probably should be able to do, but it's slightly above average. It's pretty nice, right? So 4K is legit. Like if Carson Wentz walked away getting 4K next year, I'd be pretty damn happy with that. Like I was actually going to ask you one more question. I won't do it anymore, but like Donovan McNabb, throughout his entire career, he never had one 4,000K season, which I found surprising. He had 3,900, but different era running type of offense. Maybe I don't know how it was back then, but he never got 4K. So I do think 4K is pretty special. But like there are QBs getting 4,500, 5,000 nowadays, so it is kind of crazy. But if Jalen Hurts walked away with 4K, would you be pretty happy with that?
Oh, definitely. Don't get me wrong, I would be happy with it, but I also that's like $250 a game, I think, something like that. A little bit less than that. I think our quarterback should be throwing for around $250 a game. So I would be excited, and I would be happy that he's taking that next step. Obviously he didn't do it last year, so it would definitely be a step forward. But I don't know. Maybe I'm getting a little bit, spoiled. Now I see all these like 5,000 yard seasons and all this craziness and an extra game. I'm kind of just assuming it's going to happen. But I'm glad I got that question off.
Nah, it's all good, man. It's all good. All right, so this whole podcast, it's primarily Washington Commanders fans. This is just NFC East talk right now. Also trying to get some intel from y'all. What's like the heartbeat, the big takeaway that the Eagles have this offseason? How are y'all feeling over there? Can just break it all down for you guys. Feeling optimistic? You guys feeling kind of nervous and anxious because of all these additions? How you feeling over there in Philadelphia? So off
I think it's a healthy dose of both. I think it's a healthy mixture of everything right now. I think we understand, or at least most of us. I think most of us understand that the Philadelphia Eagles added a lot of talent to a team that overachieved last year.
Okay.
But I also think that a lot of people understand there's a lot of things outside of just the things that we fixed that need to go right. I mean, the defense, while they did add talent, our defensive coordinator is somebody that I know a lot of people are a little bit nervous about. Offensively, we did add a lot of talent, but Jalen Hurts needs to take that next step. So I think that we're very optimistic that we can be better than we were last year. I don't think it's like a Super Bowl. We're out here screaming Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl, but I think that we all feel like this team can do something. I think people are still sleeping on how good we can actually be. I think a lot of people go to Jalen Hurts. You can't win with that guy. You can't win with Jalen Hurts. I think we did it in spite of him a lot of times last year. And I think that our team got even better. So if he can take that next step, it's scary, in my opinion. I think this team could be very good. It does hinge still on the same things that, me and you've been talking about all off season, even into last season. It hinges on coaching and Jalen Hurts. But as an Eagles fan, I feel comfortable. I feel like, you know what I'm saying? This is, how do I put it? Like, it's all on us now. It's all on, there's nothing we can really complain about. We can't sit here and say, our quarterback gets hurt every other week. We're really scared of that. We just need them to go out there and play right now. We just need to see everything hit the grass. Like, I think that we have the best wide receiving core we've ever had. We just talked about it, right? This is the best wide receiving core I think the Eagles have ever had. This is probably one of the top, secondaries as far as the cornerbacks room goes that we've had at least in the last decade. So there's a lot of things to be optimistic about, but there's still a lot of things that we need to see happen. Luckily, training camp coming around right now, so this will be a perfect time for us, hopefully, to see it. But I'm definitely excited, and I think a lot of Eagles fans are as well.
Yeah, I got you. So a couple things that I want to take away from there. So first thing that I liked, you guys, honest assessment, right? You were like, what, we may have overachieved last year, which I'm not being critical. I'm a pretty objective fan. So I agree with that. I think you guys were 9-8. You guys were kind of finding yourselves, but you guys won at the right time. You guys won against opponents on your schedule, and you guys made the playoffs. The other thing that I found was pretty important were you guys talking about your defense, right? We've talked about it all last year, talked about it on some other Philly podcasts. So I generally heard concerns about your defensive coordinator. Is that still a problem for you guys? Do you guys feel like he's not aggressive enough, or how do you guys feel about that?
So Jonathan Gainen is he's a weird dude. I heard so much about how, diverse he was, how much, craziness we were going to see in our defense. And we saw nothing last year. We didn't even see really any adjustments, halftime adjustments or anything like that. I'll go back to Jim Schwartz. Jim Schwartz was a good defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, but one thing that he didn't do was change what needed to be changed in order for us to be great on defense. Last year was atrocious when it comes to our defensive line. I don't have to really tell you, we earn our stones on our defensive line. That's where we invest the most money on. We were bottom 3 last year as far as sacks go and QB pressures. That can't happen again. That cannot happen again. Fletcher Cox called out our defensive coordinator and our defensive scheme. I won't necessarily say our coordinator. He didn't say Gannon's name, exactly, but he did call out the scheme, said it wasn't something that really fit him. So that can't happen again. Nothing changed last year. So I am very, very worried about our defensive coordinator, but he has a whole bunch of new weapons that, seem to fit more of what he wants to do. So I'm hoping that we see a different Jonathan Gainen this year. But last year he was just giving up 5-10 yards every play like it was no one's business.
I didn't know that. I didn't realize that actually.
It was crazy. Terrible. It was and I even said it online today. I even said it on Twitter. Like we sit here and talk about Jalen Hurts all the time, which is fair. Don't get me wrong. He's the quarterback. He's the most important face on the team. But man, it doesn't matter if Jalen Hurts becomes Patrick Mahomes next year. If our defense is as bad as it was last year and as porous as it was against was last year, there's no way we're going to be that much better. Because realistically, George, my level, my bar, my measuring
standard
stick is not. Yeah, it's not the regular season. We've made the playoffs many a times as Philadelphia Eagles. We have to make some noise in the playoffs. So yeah, he's the biggest detriment to that, in my opinion. I don't even think that Jalen Hurts has to go out there and be all world. I think that if our defense is way better, and you go back to McNabb never had to throw over 4K because our defense was always stacked. You know what I'm saying? Our defense was always stout.
I'm genuinely surprised because the Eagles have their hallmark has been a stout defensive line and causing some problems. So that's crazy. So I saw earlier today that the Eagles were 12th overall in offense. What was their defensive ranking? Do you know off the top of your head, or we're bottom of the league, or how were I didn't catch that before.
I know early on in the season we were terrible at defending the run. I know it kind of switched a little bit.
I do remember that part actually. 5 yards per carry and stuff like that. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was bad. It was bad, dude. But I know, like I said, as far as the pass defense, I think we were close to bottom of the row. I want to say we were 25 or low or something like that. I'm sure somebody in the comments can tell me better, but I know we weren't high. You know what I'm saying? But rushing defense, I think we ended up kind of middle of the pack towards the end of the year. But pass defense was bad. We gave up 80% completion percentage to 5 different quarterbacks in a 6-week span.
I heard about that actually. Yeah,
it was bad. It was like anything that could happen to your defense. I was finding out, new stats that I never knew existed. That's how bad this defense was. It was just, and the weirdest thing is it wasn't giving up a lot of points because it was just giving up long drives. So I guess it wasn't the worst thing in the world. Jonathan Gainen didn't want to get beat over top. And to his credit, he didn't get beat over top, but he got beat in front of him every play down the field. And then we weren't great in the red zone.
Playing out to lose instead of playing to win. I can see that. I got you, man.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's cool if you're going to play within the 20s, if you want to kind of let the guys have whatever they want in between the 20s, but you got to stop them in the red zone. And we just didn't do that. So it's something's got to give. You either got to, become a little bit more of a playmaking defense, get some turnovers, make some third down stops, or you got to get way better in the red zone. So he's a guy I got my eye all the way on. That's if coaches could work did drills during the offseason, I guarantee you I would just stay at whatever drill Jonathan Gainen was doing because I'm so worried about what he's going to be next year.
Is he on the hot seat or is it more is this do you hear this in local news in Philadelphia, or is it more of a fan conversation? Is he on the hot seat at all? I have no idea.
It's funny because he's either way, I talked to Bo Wolf, who covers the Eagles, and he has a whole team of people that are really connected with the organization. And I kind of asked him that question because it felt like that. It feels like either way he's going to be gone. I feel like if he has a really good year as a defensive coordinator, he's probably going to get talked to as a head coach because that's what he came into our team as. He came onto our team as a guy that would, was garnering that head coach talk that a lot of people liked.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where did he come from, Joe? I don't
he came from the Vikings, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken, he's from the Vikings. But we also have Nick Rallis, right? Nick Rallis, I believe, came also from the Vikings as well. Okay. He's young. He's 30 or something like that. Crazy young. Okay. But he's a guy that I keep on hearing when I'm talking to reporters, when I'm talking to people, that he's the next name, that he's the guy that people want to move up. So I feel like if Jonathan Gainen has a great year, he'll be on talks for, a head coaching position somewhere. But also I think if he has a terrible year, the Eagles will just be like, you know what, let's move on and let's, maybe get this youth movement going or maybe go get somebody else. So I don't think Jonathan Gainen will be here either way. Maybe that's a little bit of a jumping off the ledge there, but I really don't see him coming back at all.
That's interesting. I mean, and to throw a nugget to people that are listening here and the Philadelphia listeners, I think we feel the same way about Jack Del Rio over here in DC, man. We came here, had that reputation of turning defenses around, coming from the Broncos, number 2, number 3 overall defensive coordinator. But I think we're kind of catching the vibe that he isn't aggressive enough. He barely blitzed the first 4 weeks of the season, and Washington was getting cooked at over the top. He said a lot of polarizing things on Twitter, on social media. I don't know if you guys have been catching that up in Philadelphia, but a lot of wild stuff over there. there. And it's like altogether, I think basically he's starting to lose a lot of energy around here from the fan base. I don't know. Ron Rivera's a loyal guy, so we'll see if he actually sticks around for that. But basically, we'll see. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if it changed for that. So one more question before we start diving into the players. I didn't know we were going this route, but now I'm interested. Nick Sirianni, your head coach, I don't know much about him, man. I remember when he first got hired, people were kind of clowning him, like rock, paper, scissors, and like all that kind of stuff. Like, did people actually gravitate towards him, and people feel like he's a good coach now in Philadelphia, or what's going on over there?
Heck yeah. I think, I said it when he first started doing all those press conferences. I said he was either going to be the most loved, Philadelphia Eagles coach in history or the most memed NFL coach in history. Well, I think we're starting to get towards that love part. Like, I love the guy. I've watched last season probably more than I want to, admit, more than I probably should have. But I've tried to rewatch these games, rewatch this offense, see what, and honestly, I love what Nick Sirianni did with this offense. I love, that he's willing to say, listen, let's give it to Shane Steichen, let Shane Steichen take over. I love that he's not, he's not too high, not too low. The players seem to really gravitate towards him. The city loves that type of person, somebody that's going to go out there on a whim or on a limb, and just, make statements, make bold statements. Yeah. I think he learned from last year. I don't think this year you'll see the beat Dallas shirts. I don't think this year you'll see as many analogies. But I love the guy. I really do. I think he's got a strong foot in Philadelphia. I think as long as he does not, totally fall backwards, I think that he'll be fine in Philadelphia. And I do like the guy. I really do. It's interesting that he hasn't fired anybody yet. Especially last year, there was a lot of things that you could have blamed people. Like our special teams was not as good as it should have been. Our defense, we've talked about. There was a lot of guys that he could have scapegoated. He could have been like, listen, we sucked because of this guy. He didn't. he kept it about the team. So I like him. I like him a lot.
That's cool, man. That's awesome. I feel like when you're a first-year coach and you're trying to get your footing, it's best to kind of like take the first year to kind of assess and kind of see what everyone can do and see what their strengths are. And honestly, like from your standpoint, he came in, took over a new team. The team was kind of struggling before him. Now he kind of in a rebuild year, got to the playoffs at 9-8, then added a lot of talent. So that's actually pretty good for him. So you guys are kind of set up for success. So more press for that. So real quick, speaking of building teams, kind of putting things together, you guys had a pretty notable offseason with your draft and with the whole, all these free agent additions. Let's talk the draft first, right? So were you happy with the draft? You guys walked in with 3 first-round picks, and you and I talked about it. Everyone talked about it. Like, what are you going to do with these 3 picks? You're going to get 3 first-rounders to build around Hurts, or you're going to trade away a pick, and eventually you guys did. How do you feel about the overall draft in regard to building your team?
I loved it. I loved it. I mean, you look at the 2 draft picks that we walked into the night with. You walk away with A.J. Brown as one of them, and then Jordan Davis as the other one. I could nitpick. I could say, and I'm going to nitpick. I would have loved to have Kyle Hamilton on this team, especially seeing how safety, safety positions going right now, and how much Jesse Bates wants to get paid. I would have loved to have a Kyle Hamilton, but I love Jordan Davis. I think that he's going to be a dog for this team. I don't see Fletcher Cox, but that's okay. Like, I think that he'll be a dog in his own type of, retrospect. And I think that, the Eagles didn't say, let's grab him because he's the next Fletcher Cox. I think he's going to be great in his own type of style of play. So I'm excited to see that. Obviously, going deeper into the draft, being able to get Nakobe Dean in the 3rd round was an absolute steal. There's so many things that you watch, from that draft, and you love it. Like I said, being able to get A.J. Brown, being able to get Hassan Reddick, especially when Philadelphia Eagles, at least me, I won't say, everybody, but I did not expect us to go after Hassan Reddick. There were some people that were saying that we were going to go after Hassan Reddick, and I would have loved it. Don't get me wrong. And I did love it when we got him. I thought he was going to get paid way more. And I think that everybody else thought he was going to get paid way more, even if he did come to the Eagles. So, to be able to get him on such a good deal, I loved it. You even look towards the end of the offseason, getting somebody like Jaquiski Tart really just, shores up the position. I've been told that they don't really, he's one of those guys that if he doesn't make the roster, they're not that mad about it. He's kind of I was kind of surprised when I heard that. I'm not going to lie. I thought he was going to kind of be like a lock. I thought he would be kind of like
a starter, cornerstone guy.
Yeah, but from what I'm hearing, it sounds like if he doesn't make the roster, they're not going to be that upset about it. Not saying that there's a definite guy that's going to take that spot, but if Marcus Epps shows out, if Kayvon Wallace shows out, if Anthony Harris shows out, I don't think they would be too upset that they're wasting around $2 million on a Jaquiski Tartt. So
Yeah,
I think that
nothing.
I think it brings competition, but at the same time, it doesn't handcuff you, right? Like if you go out and get a Jesse Bates and he's not as good as a Marcus Epps, it's going to be hard for you to really, justify that you're benching a Jesse Bates. So it lets you just kind of still make that decision, still let you, run that the what's the word I'm looking for? Like they want competition, and I love it. Like you're continuing with that. Last year we saw people get cut mid-season, which we never see. So all the moves this offseason, I feel just back up that statement that you want to see competition, and I love it. I love it. I don't feel like we've been lied to. Like a lot of past seasons, it felt like I've been lied to. This season, I feel like they're doing everything they said they would. So this was I said it. I'll say it again. I think this is one of, if not the best offseason as a Philadelphia Eagles fan. It was a lot of fun to watch,
And I'll be honest with you.
I'm
sort of jealous for you. I mean, I don't know if you and I were talking about it, but it was like, I know the other NFC East teams were getting frustrated about how slow moving the off seasons were. Like Washington were dying for any addition. Like we still don't have like a true like linebacker depth at all. We want veteran depth. We don't have any of that. So I'm definitely jealous of you guys, and hopefully you guys pan out for you. But
we got a bunch of linebackers. We never have linebackers. I'm sorry. I gotta say that. You know what I'm saying? We never have linebackers. Now it's like I don't even know who's gonna play. It's pretty. It's nice. It's nice being an Eagles fan.
Speaking of which, right? So Nakobe Dean, he was definitely a hot topic here in DC. We want the fans wanted him. I don't know if he was a good fit for us because he's kind of small. He kind of like plays it like that will linebacker, like 220-pound role. He's a great run defender. I'm not gonna lie. I actually did a football profile for him for full press coverage. I like Nakobe Dean, but I guess he had some back issues, some like leg issues, a little injuries here or there. Has he been practicing at training camp, or did he practice at training camp? And have you heard any good things so far, or what's going on there?
Yeah, we didn't do much training camp, the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm being honest, I think we had like 6, maybe 7 days. I think it was 6. Out of the 13, we opted to only do 6. No like physical days. Obviously, it's very limited what you can actually do because of the NFLPA. But from what I heard, he was a full go. From what I heard, it seemed like he, was in consideration to be that guy as the communicator for the defense. They were talking about giving him the green dot.
Wow, the Mike linebacker. Okay,
yeah. So there was a lot of hype behind him, but at the same time, I don't want to overstate it because we really didn't do anything. If I'm being 100% honest with you, George, we really didn't do anything for those.
Interesting. Okay.
OT. So
we did a lot of 7-on-7s in DC. We didn't really go to. We didn't hit it all, but we did a lot of 7-on-7s and drills like that.
We ain't doing that. I would have rather have gotten fines. Like I think Mike McCarthy ended up getting a fine because they were you guys got fined. They were like, you guys did great job. Like I don't even know why we showed up. But I heard that he was out there fully ready to go. He said he's ready to go. There's been no type of trepidation that he might miss the beginning of the year or anything like that. It seems like he's 110% to go. So I love when draft storylines like that happen, right? You get the video of Laramie Tunsil that one year. This year it's him getting hurt, so it helped us. So I'm glad. I think he's ready to go, and I expect him to be out on that field come game 1.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. All right, so good for him. We'll see if he actually gets some playing time. So walking away from the draft, walking away from the free agency, you guys got AJ Brown, big acquisition, James Bradbury, big acquisition as well. Are there still large deficits for your team right now? Do you guys have like any holes on the team you guys are concerned about, or do you think like for the most part you guys are pretty good?
I would say safety, really. That's like, I know we just talked about safety, and I'm glad that we got Jaquiski Tartt, but it's still probably the biggest, question mark as far as what has been done at the position, right? Like you can look at the cornerback position. So you got 2 guys that have played high level at the position. Defensive line, you got a bevy of good players. Linebacker can still be a question because I don't necessarily know who is going to play. We have a whole bunch of players, at the position right now. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But safety to me, I think that's still the biggest question mark. It could not matter. It could really not matter. It could. I was one that really sat here and was like, "We need Jesse Bates. We need Jesse Bates." But shout out to my subscribers because they calmed me down. They talked me off the ledge, and it's true.
I saw the thumbnail for it. So you're harping for me. You're pining for me.
I want him. And don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. What I'm about to say, I still want him. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I understand the opposite end of it. I understand that it could mess up our cap for years to come. It could, it kind of be a detriment to us building this team because you're going to have to give up, assets. You're going to have to give up that money. So I get it. I get both sides of it. If it doesn't happen, it's cool. But if you have to nitpick and say, I'm a little bit worried about this, and you're not talking about coaching, because I think that's the biggest thing right now, I would have to say that safety room is a little bit worrisome, but I think it'll be masked. I really do. I think we have a good enough front seven, good enough cornerback room to kind of mask any deficiencies that they may have at the safety room. But that's probably the biggest concern for me right now.
Interesting. Yeah, I agree. I think if you have a good cornerback situation and good pass rush, you could always kind of hide the safety as well. It's funny. I didn't even know this was a conversation, but I guess it might be in Eagle circles. My man Richie right here, Richie Mack said, "Is Darius Slay a top 8 cornerback?" How do you feel about that, man? I don't know. I don't even think about it like that. But I mean, is that a conversation in Philadelphia circles or what?
Maybe it is. I guess it is. I guess it is. Yeah, I guess it is. I didn't know. There's no way I'm not putting Darius Slay in my time. I'm sorry. There's just no way. I had him at number 7. I think that was very fair. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is. I guess it doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't in the grand.
That was last year, right?
Exactly. Now it's all about what he does this year. But I say he's top 7. What do you think? Do you think he's top 7?
I don't know. So you tell me, man. So I haven't followed him as closely as you guys do, obviously. So Darius Slay, when he was on freaking Detroit, big, King Slay, big play Slay, definitely, elite player, right? One of the best in the league. From what I remember, you tell me, you educate me. I thought he had a down year his first year in Philadelphia, right? Wasn't he kind of like falling off the charts a little bit? Like he wasn't really that great. And I guess he bounced back last season. Like for me, I'm like, I respect him, but I don't find him as super elite. But maybe you have some stats ahead of that I don't know, or anything like, was there a completion percentage or something or picks? Like why do you guys consider him top 10? Like I just don't educate me.
Yeah, no, I will say his first year wasn't the best, like on the surface. When you walk away from it, you know what I'm saying, and you just look at it on the surface, it wasn't a great year for his first year. He had like 4 games that people love to go back against, like the DK kind of. He beat him up a little bit. It is what it is.
Big boy.
Yeah, it is what it is. Along with some other people that kind of took advantage of him. I think we went against Devontae Adam that year. Like these were elite wide receivers that beat him up. It is what it is. And then last year, he had 3 touchdowns. I think he was first in defensive touchdowns, second in cornerback grade.
I didn't realize it was like that. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
I was loving him a little bit. Okay.
Oh yeah. But for good reason. He didn't allow over 30 yards. You know what I'm saying? Like the dude was out there killing it. I don't have. I think I still have some notes from the. Let me pull this up. Yeah, I still have some notes from the best of enemies. So hold on. Let me just. Only 28.8 yards allowed per game. You know what I'm saying? And then you go through some of these big names this year: Calvin Ridley, Kenny Galladay, Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, Antonio Brown, DJ Moore, Tyreek Hill. None of them got over 15 yards. So I mean, he did his thing this year. I think that he did his thing this year, and not only that he did his thing this year. You look at the other people on the top 10 list. I won't go through too much of them, but obviously you got names like Jair Alexander, Jalen, J.C. Ramsey, right? Or J.C. Jackson, excuse me. You got a bunch of different guys that are on good defenses, right? Like Ramsey's on a really stacked defense. Xavier Howard, the Dolphins have a good defense.
Ramsey got cooked in Super Bowl too. But go ahead.
He did get cooked. Yeah, he did get cooked. But you look at their defenses, you look at these top cornerbacks, and you look at their defenses. Yeah, I'm not trying to sit here and poo-poo on my own team, but our defense was terrible last year, and he did all that on a terrible defense with no help. He didn't have a safety behind him that he could realistically count on. I liked what Steven Nelson did last year, but he wasn't a premier guy. Our front 7, like I said, was bottom 3, and you're still able out there to get touchdowns and interceptions and shut your side of the field down. So I think that you look at, and his projection, right? Like you look at what our team is now and how we were able to build our defense, I think it's very, very possible that he goes out there and has a breakout year because of that. So I'm excited.
Yeah, definitely for sure. So speaking of building up your defense, what would you say is the hallmark of the Eagles? Or is your offense better than your defense? Is your defense better than your offense right now altogether?
I would say our
It's my
offense is better. I would
shout out to
say
my boy. I love Weed's my boy, by the way. He's on every single podcast. I love this guy. He's great. What's up, man? What's up, my
I
man? How
love
you
that
doing,
name.
bro? Yeah,
He
it's
about to
hilarious.
spank Slay. That ain't gonna
Yeah.
happen. CD ain't doing nothing to Slay. We're definitely gonna sweep the Cowboys this year, and I can't wait because it's gonna be hilarious. I'm calling it now. But no, I will say our offense is better than our defense. I think that our run game, our offensive line, like it's another world, and I don't even think it's just our starters. Like I think our top five is really, really great. But then you look at our backups, and we have probably the most deep offensive line in the league, in my opinion. So
I keep hearing that over and over again. Your offensive line is the best in the NFL, or arguably the best in the NFL.
Yeah. So I mean, I would have to say our offense. If our defense can step it up, what's going on, Cole? If our defense can if our offense, I can't talk. If our defensive line can step it back up and get back to where they were, I'm telling you, George. Last year, right, we were bottom 3 in sacks. The year prior to that, we were top 3. That's too big of a that's too big of a jump.
It's going to
That's
regress
too
back
big.
to me. You're going to find something more in the middle.
Exactly. I want to get back to top 3. Don't get me wrong, but at least get me back to top 10. And I'll be cool. And I think if we get back there, it helps everybody. So I think our offense is what's going to win us games. I think our offense is what's in it. It's not going to be flashy. I don't think it's going to be Jalen Hurts going out there throwing for 400 yards a game. I think it's our run game just saying, okay, you're just not going to touch the ball for like the next 8 minutes. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, you better go out there and score every single time because we're just going to keep running it down your throat.
That's a smart strategy right there. So let's pivot a little bit, right? So we got an NFC East conversation going on. My boy Cole's in here. My boy, I love Weed. I love those guys. They're always on all my shows every time. Let's talk about the NFC East. Time to stick out your chest a little bit, Joe. How are you feeling about this, man? Are you feeling confident? Are the Eagles going to win the NFC East this year, in your opinion?
George, let's not talk about if the Eagles are going to win this. Let's talk about by how much, right? Let's talk about how badly we're going to be demolishing this whole division. No, all jokes aside, all hate aside, I think we could. I definitely think we could. I think that it's fair to say that the Cowboys took a step back. I think it's fair to say that the Washington football team are a better team on paper. I think that now having a quarterback, it'll definitely help them. But I still don't think that they're there yet. I still think that they're a couple pieces away. And I think that they're a coach away, if I'm being 100% honest. I love Ron Rivera. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's that guy that's going to bring you to the next. I think that he got you to a place where you can build in peace, right?
Yeah,
like, like you guys
we're now a professional organization.
Exactly. Like you guys can just,
I agree with that. Okay.
Yeah. So I respect him to that. I really do. I've told you before, I love Ron Rivera. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Being Hispanic myself, I love the man, but I just don't think he's that guy right now. But and then Giants, I've said this before. I think that the Giants, I think Wink is going to get that defense on the right path. I think that the team overall is going to benefit from having a better coach. I think that Joe Judge was very, very bad. I am not going to, I said it last year that I thought Daniel Jones would take a step, you know what I'm saying? And then he took a step, but it was in a totally different, you know what I'm saying? He did the electric slide to the opposite end that I thought he was going to be at. So I won't say that he's going to take a big step, but I do think Daniel Jones is not as bad as he was last year. I will say that. So I do think that they'll be better. But with all that said, I don't see how any team, only team I can see beating the Philadelphia Eagles in the NFC East on a consistent basis is the Philadelphia Eagles. If the Philadelphia Eagles go out there and do what they're supposed to do, go out there, dominate on the run game, use your offensive line, slow the game down, blitz heavily, use Jordan Davis like he's supposed to be, use Fletcher Cox like he's supposed to be, utilize these cornerbacks like they're supposed to be. I don't see how we go out there and lose. Last year we had everything. We did not have a good team. If you go down the list of players that we had, we were not a good team. And I'll say last year was a rebuild, retool, whatever you want to say. We're still on that path, but we took a major jump. So now to me, it's all on this coaching staff to take that jump with the talent. Howie Roseman gave you talent. Now as coaching staff, it's time for you to utilize this talent and give us Eagles fans what the freak we want, and that's to not be losing to the Dallas Cowboys more than once a year. All right, like I got nothing but love for Washington. I got nothing but love for Giants, and I just don't think that you guys are there yet. This is still between Dallas and Philly to me. I just think
that's a fair assessment. So from your perspective, the Cowboys and the Eagles are going to compete for the NFC East.
Yeah.
You think you have the inside track because you guys got better this year while the Cowboys took a step back, which is fair. I think that's kind of like the common narrative this offseason. We'll kind of see how it goes. In my opinion, I think I agree. I do think the Cowboys, Eagles, and Commanders are all kind of in that same they're all that same network right there. They're kind of like, I think two of the three are actually going to make the playoffs. And I think it's going to be attrition. Who can be the healthiest by the end of the year? Who can produce? Who can have some chemistry at the right time? Who can peak and so on and so forth. I do think it's going to be pretty interesting. The Giants, I do like what they're building, man. I agree with you with Wink at the defensive coordinator position, Shane, the GM for the Bills. Dable is a quarterback guru for the offense for the Giants. So they're coming around, man. So I do think it's all kind of coming together for them, but I don't think it's going to happen this year. I think next year, the year after, the Giants are starting to come, but we'll see. I think it's going to be pretty competitive, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I did say that I thought the Eagles were going to win 14 games, and that
this year.
I said this year. Look, I will say this, and you could probably attest to this. Sometimes I don't know if you ever did a show with like a rival, team.
I love James. They start calling you out.
I love James, but he's been doing this way longer than I have, so it's easier for him to stay, humble. He got me hyped before the show, so I was over here like, we ain't losing a game. How about that, Jay? But no, I think anywhere between 10 and 12 for the Eagles, man. I really do believe the Eagles have a team, and it's not even just about their team; it's about the schedule. And this is going to sound kind of messed up to a lot of Eagles fans. Shout out to everybody, checking in on this channel. If you're on my channel, if you're on George's channel, if you're on my channel, definitely going over to George's channel and like, subscribe, show mad love because he puts out amazing content. Well, a really good friend, more than just a content creator. But I've said this before. It's not even just about the team. It's about the schedule. And we might find ourselves in a position that we have 11, 12 wins. And I'm still sitting here saying, we're really not that good of a team. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a realistic possibility. We don't play many good teams. So I said this before and I'll say it again. Our bar is not the regular season. It has to be the playoffs. We have to get into the playoffs and we have to make some noise, whether that be a win, whether that be a very close game against a really good team. It has to be something.
I love that, actually. I think that it's funny just talking about the different teams and just kind of their standards. Like I had Big Game James the other day, got you right here. You guys have been more successful than Washington the past 5-10 years. For real, just being honest with you guys. And your standard is basically we're sick of making it to the playoffs. We actually want to start winning in the playoffs. So you guys have a little bit of a different higher standard than what we have right now. In DC, we want to get to the playoffs and hopefully make some noise. But you guys have an extra added level, and I hope we get there at some point. So a couple more questions, Joe, before we kind of wrap it up. So before we got on the pod, I kind of threw it up on my Twitter. I said, does anyone have any fan questions? So I had a couple fan questions to throw to you. So this is from at Chase Radar. He said, I'm going to quote him, how can you feel great about your team if you still have questions about Hurts as a pure quarterback? That's his question. So what do you have to answer? How would you answer that?
I respect that. I think Chase follows me as well. So shout out to Chase Radar. I'll answer that question with a question myself. Aren't you a little bit worried about your quarterback? I think that you know what I'm saying? I mean, but look, I'll say this. I'll realistically say this. I think that, and I said it before, I don't think that the Eagles' success really hinges solely on Jalen Hurts. If Jalen Hurts goes out there and is absolutely garbage, he can definitely derail our season. But I think that if he goes out there and plays even at the same level that he did last year, the rest of our team is so much better that by default, you should be better, in my opinion. By default, you
Mm-hmm.
should take another step. So last year,
more experience,
exactly.
This is his first year having consecutive offensive coordinators, from what I understand, right?
Since high school.
Since high school, I've heard that too.
School.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, and I'm not going to buy too much into. I would love to see Jalen Hurts become a great player, become a great passer and all that stuff. Realistically, all I need him to do is just not give up the ball, be who you were last year at the worst. You know what I'm saying? Don't give up. Don't fumble the ball a whole bunch of times. Don't throw a bunch of interceptions. That's one thing I will say from his first 4 games to his second year as him as a full-time starter. He didn't give up the ball, and that's huge. So if you can continue to do that and just let the rest of these players do what they got to do, you're no longer throwing little 5-yard outs to Rhaegar. You're going to be throwing 5-yard outs to A.J. Brown, so you're going to hope that that's going to be a little bit better, right? So you should see.
He's a bully with the ball, bro. He's a big boy. He's a big boy.
Yeah, so everything's built how it should be for us to be what we were towards the end of last year. A.J. Brown is the perfect person to continually build your running game around.
Exactly. He's a coming from the Titans, that whole power running game, blocking, catching the ball, bully balls, catching on a slant. A.J. Brown does fit the Eagles pretty well. I want to give a shout out to Richie and I love Weed. They're going back and forth in the chat right now. Richie said Cowboy fans are hiding over in Carmi's stream. Dude, they're welcome, man. I love talking football, man. It's NFC East. I'm glad I love Weed's here. I'm glad Cole's here. Those are my boys, man. So you guys are more than welcome. Richie joining on the podcast too in the future, man. I love that stuff. So
people telling me I need to be drug tested because I'm saying we sweeping the Cowboys. Cowboys are definitely in the building, y'all. I don't know.
Dude, I love it. That's what we're here for, man. It's talking smack. I love it, man. It's awesome. So let's keep a couple more questions. So Chase, same dude, he basically said, Hurts question. He says, I'm actually interested in this one for fantasy coming up. Is it a make or break season for Miles Sanders?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you define as a make or break season. Like, if you want him to be a part of the Philadelphia Eagles, kind of is. He's another guy that
is he like a legit you can build around, or I don't know much.
Oh, I would draft him. I think
I had on my team last year. I couldn't even play him because it was rough. But yeah, go ahead.
He would be a solid flex, maybe. He would be a solid flex, maybe.
Okay.
I have to, a gig that I got is kind of based around a lot of fantasy stuff. So I've been having to ask a lot of these questions, but I wouldn't trust anybody in our running. I know our running game is going to be great. I think it's going to be amazing next year, but you could be looking at one game, Miles Sanders getting 10, 15 carries, right? Then Kenneth Gainwell getting 10, 15 carries the next game. Then, if Jordan Howard comes back,
Boston
which is
Scott
still
Jordan Howard.
Boston Scott.
Stable. Yeah.
We have so many. Kennedy Brooks is a guy that's, and his name is kind of getting a lot of traction in early camp. So we have so many people. You can throw me back there, George. You can go back there and probably get, 3 or 4 yards a clip behind this offensive line. So I don't trust I don't trust him as a fantasy prospect. If you're talking make or break as far as if he's going to be with the Eagles, I'll be 100% honest. I don't think he's going to be with the Eagles either way. He's kind of the same situation that Jonathan Gainen is. He's going to either outperform and they're not going to want to give him another contract, or he's just not going to be good and they're going to not want to give him another contract. So I love Miles Sanders too. That's one of my favorite players, and I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. But
a lot of hype. I might hate on him. He said a lot of hype. He was he was a dual threat, running back and catch some passes at the backfield. There's a lot of
he's good.
Talk about him
being
a good player. Is he injury prone, or I feel like he goes away some games? Is it because of injuries or because you don't use him? I don't really know. You guys follow him. You watch him more than me.
A little bit of both. Last year, especially, it was a little bit of both. So last year we obviously didn't run for the first 8 games. But once we started running, literally the game that we started running, we had Miles Sanders ran the ball in the first quarter, first half, 10 times. And we're all sitting there watching oh, let's go. We're finally about to run. Miles Sanders is going crazy. This is what we wanted. Then he gets hurt. You know what I'm saying? It's it was the saddest thing, because then we obviously go on that run where we're just historically running the ball. He comes back and there's just not much room for you anymore. It's Jordan Howard kind of took over the bell cow role. Kenneth Gainwell kind of found his spot. We found a spot for Miles Sanders, but Miles is going to have to fight every play to be on that field, because there's other guys that can play the position at a cheaper rate than
honestly
the
Eagles are doing it. Honestly, the Eagles are doing it right. I like that perspective. They're doing it at a cheaper rate than Miles Sanders, and like you have to be by committee. Injuries keep people fresh. People have different strengths, and honestly, I don't know about Miles Sanders' pass blocking that comes into effect too. So there's a bunch of different factors that go into it. So for sure. All right, 3 more questions and we're done. So one more, Chase Raider. I had a bunch coming at you. He said, who is one player that nobody is talking about in Philadelphia that we should be paying attention to?
Well, that's a good question. That's a
great question. I love that question.
I will say Kaiser White. Wait, was it in Philadelphia nobody's talking about, or outside of Philadelphia?
More like outside. I think you're talking about like from the from the national perspective, like under the radar kind of dude.
Yeah, I would say Kaiser White. I think that coming from the Chargers, we needed a linebacker. We needed a coverage linebacker. I don't know if he's going to be that guy. I really do want to believe that, TJ Edwards and Jacoby Dean will go out there, take over, or Davian Taylor, or one of these guys that we kind of drafted, born and bred. But if not, we might have ourselves a dog. Like everything that I've heard from Chargers, fans, reporters,
for sure. Yeah, I know
they love this guy. So if he goes out there and he does what we expect him to do, we could be even if he's just a depth piece. You're talking about we're 3-4 guys, deep at the linebacking position. That's crazy. I can't remember the last time the Eagles were 1 deep at the linebacking position. So it's nice to have 3 or 4 guys that can possibly go out there. So I think Kaiser White is a guy that I don't necessarily know how big of an impact he's going to make, but it could be huge. It could be a huge impact. So I'll say Kaiser White.
Cool. All right, last team. I'm sorry I keep throwing questions at you.
Are you good? This is fun. I'm having fun.
All right, cool. All right. So my boy Nat Love at good guy Ike _18. He said, "What is your response to when someone says the Eagles didn't beat anyone last season?"
True. No, I'm just kidding. No, we beat 9 teams. Look, true. Man, you play who you play. You play who's in front of your roster, your schedule. I mean, there is no response. There isn't. It is what it is. That's one of those things that you got to just be like, no, you're right. That's 100% true. And this year, that has to change. I will say this. Last year, we weren't supposed to do what we did, and I'll say that to the wits' end, and that's not an excuse. That's just the truth. We were a team that came from 4 wins, a brand new quarterback, a brand new coach, a brand new offensive coordinator. Every single coach was brand new, right? You go through all that this offseason. You go through a whole bunch of staffing changes. We no longer really have a president of player personnel. No longer have an Andy Whiteout. Like there's so many things that have changed. So many things that have changed with this Philadelphia Eagles organization and team. And not only that, you've been able to still kind of stay afloat. So I understand that. I get it. We need to be better. But I didn't think we were going to be as good as we were. So I'm not mad at it. I think that if you say that to me this year again, I'm going to be a little bit more upset. Like this year is the year I expect us to take that, step. But there's not much you can say about that. If you're a realistic fan, because that's a fact. That's the truth. That's that really happened. We could say that we beat the Saints, right? When we beat the Saints, they were over 500. But you can also say that they didn't have Michael Thomas, Alvin Kamara, or Jameis Winston. So it is what it is. It sucks, but it's something that we're gonna have to fix.
Nah, that's one thing I appreciate about you, man. You keep it real always. You definitely I do think. In my honest opinion, I think the Eagles overachieved last year, but that's a good thing. I mean, you guys have a very, very similar trajectory to what we had in 2020. We were coming off a bad year. We had name change. Everything was ugly. We had kind of a unique stretch at the end of the year where we started winning against really kind of underperforming teams, and we made the playoffs that way. We were hoping to take another step, but then we took a step back as what we had this year. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with y'all, but I mean, definitely – you guys definitely added more to your team to what we did. So you guys are projected to do better, I honestly think.
We better do better.
All right, let's do 2 more. All right, so fan question from Ed's Biv. Let me find his actual Twitter name because he's a cool dude. I talked to him a couple of times. All right, his question, his name's Nats Love. He basically said, that's a different question. Ed's Biv, he said, are you concerned about chemistry on defense? You guys added a whole bunch of new pieces to the team. Do you feel like, are you concerned about that? Are you worried?
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, an offense as well. It's going to take time. I will say this as far as our defense goes. I think that talent will take over at some point. And especially on the defensive line. When you look at where we added pieces, you added pieces to that defensive line. Let me rephrase that. When you look at where we added young pieces, when you add a veteran like a James Bradbury, I don't think there's much chemistry that he has to get. Like, just go out there and be our cornerback too. That's basically what we asked of Steven Nelson.
Solid corners, bro. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's much that we're gonna ask him to do that he hasn't done before. Same thing with these safeties. You look at Jaquaski Tart. I mean, there's nothing that we're doing that I don't think he hasn't done before. So if you look at the rookies that we've added, the youth that we've added, it's at the linebacking position and it's at the defensive line position.
Okay.
Defensive line, we have a whole bunch of veterans that can just kind of bring them along.
Easier transition in the NFL too. They're really, certain A gap, B gap. I mean,
exactly.
I just don't want to discredit their position altogether. But considering like quarterback and wide receivers and things like that, I feel like it's more easy. Like, defensive line and probably running back are probably more of an easier transition in the NFL, in my opinion. So I can see that over there.
Yeah, and a lot of the things you can work on when you're not in pads, like with offense, like your timing and all that, you kind of need to be in pads, kind of have that defense out there. With defense, it's kind of like just knowing the calls, knowing where you're supposed to be on any given play. So I feel confident that the veterans of the positions can kind of walk these young guys along. So I'm not too worried, but it's a good question. And it is something to kind of, keep an eye out for.
Very good. Will says right here, he's definitely a big Eagle supporter. I believe that Hurts is way underestimated, and I think he'll come through as one of the all-time greats, one of the Eagle greats. I've watched Eagles ever since Cunningham. Let's go Hurts and the Eagles, baby, and a whole bunch of emojis. All right, good for him, man. Actually, I like Jalen Hurts, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like, talking to you, talking to a couple other Eagle content creators, I like Jalen Hurts. I wanted to be successful, but not too successful. I want us to do all right. So
that's my biggest thing. My biggest thing is just I would love him as a person. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But my biggest thing with Eagles fans is like, don't be like so negative towards other people that have things to say about Jalen Hurts. Like,
you gotta be objective. You gotta listen.
Yeah, that's what it is. Like, if people are gonna see different things, I feel like there's no right answers in football. Like, that's the beauty of football. Like, you make your opinion, you say what you say, and if you're wrong, you're wrong. If you're right, you're right. But none of us really know. Jalen Hurts is a really interesting guy, man, because he's gotten better every single year.
Yeah,
I feel like at some point it's gonna click, and he might become that guy that we need, but he might not. And honestly, I really don't care. I don't care who our quarterback is. Me personally, we have so many picks. We have so many, young players. So much money coming up. Like, I believe in Howie Roseman again. Like, I would love for Jalen Hurts to be our quarterback because, one, I do like the kid. I think
like that he is. I like him a lot. Yeah.
But two, it makes everything easier, right? It makes everything easier. Now you have your quarterback. Now you can use those
building
picks.
Around it. Exactly right. Yep.
But if we don't, we got them picks. So I'm not too worried. Man. I think the Eagles are going to be fine either way. And we're never a team that falls off for a long periods of time, right? Like you see us go, win 4 games the next year, we're right back in the playoffs. So
yeah, man.
I'm not too worried, man. I'm not too worried.
That's good stuff, man, right there. All right. So we spent a lot of time talking about the Eagles. This is my personal question because I'm just kind of curious for the vibe around the league. So when you think of the Commanders, are there any players, like, who would you say are like the players you guys consider like, oh, these are the better players on the Commanders, people that stand out, like people that you are worried about? Like, do you guys respect? Like, I'm actually not even going to say anything because I want to drop like 2 or 3 Commanders that you guys are like, he's actually a pretty good player. Like, we're looking out for him when we play him next year. Is there anybody that you feel that way, or are you guys pretty confident in the Eagles? I'm sure there's a little bit of both, probably.
I like Terry McGuire. I don't want to say I like, but Scary Terry is the truth, right? So Scary Terry is the truth. I think that's an easy one. Your running back is good. What's his name?
Antonio Gibson.
Antonio Gibson. He's good. Actually, one of the Eagles content creators like made a whole video about him. I had no idea who he was before he got drafted, but either way, he's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see what happens with Jahan Dotson. I like your defensive tackle. Is it Deron Payne or something like that? Yeah, I like your defensive tackle. I like your whole defensive line, if we're being honest. I'm trying to think who else. If I'm being 100% honest, that's the only people that come to my head. But I know you guys keep talking about you guys got the safety that I'm now kind of interested to see play.
Cameron Curl. He's a beast, man. Cameron Curl.
But if I had to, and obviously it's going to be interesting to see how Carson Wentz, pans out. But the only really people that scare me on your team is like your defensive line and Scary Terry. That's like the only people that I'll go into a game and be like, all right, we got to make sure these guys don't ruin the game for us.
That's good to know, man. That's definitely good to know. One thing that was interesting, like I mean, seriously, like that's really good to know. Our whole team for Washington is like it's all going to be about if things kind of hit for us. It's very like fragile in regard to our success, right? Is Carson Wentz going to be successful next year? Is Chase Young going to bounce back? It's interesting you didn't say Chase Young. It's like he kind of fell off the radar with his season last year.
I'm not too afraid of.
Yeah, better say Curtis Samuel's on our team, and basically people aren't talking about him either. So it's interesting to kind of see where people feel. So things got to fall right for us to be successful. But
I think it's so interesting that you guys have like your wide receiving core is really, I don't want to say weird because I want to be rude, but like it is.
Be real.
Like you got a lot of small boys, like a lot of small guys.
There's some shifty people on our squad. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, 6 foot and below shifty people. So we'll see what happens there. Yeah.
It's gonna be really fun it's either gonna be really fun to watch or you're gonna have a whole nother, starting 3 wide receivers after 4 or 5 games. Because Carson Wentz does not care where he puts that ball. That's one thing I'll say. He's gonna put your wide receivers in some spots to get knocked the heck out. And you don't have
Curtis Samuel's
yeah.
I think the rationale for Washington is that our wide receivers are gonna be like chain movers, like screens and like slants and like drag routes and stuff like that. Logan Thomas is a big tight end that we have, and our whole tight end room, like I mean, look it up, is like 6'6" and above. Like believe it or not, we have like Cole Turner from Nevada, it's like 6'7". He's got Calvin Hodges, Logan Thomas. Like I think the narrative in DC, and I don't know if you agree to this, is that Carson Wentz is like somewhat inaccurate when he throws the ball. Like he has a gun, but basically he doesn't throw like to like he needs some of the big catch readies to kind of catch a little bit of the errors. And basically they're like saying that we intentionally got the tight ends to kind of cover that up. So we'll see.
That makes sense.
We'll see
that makes a lot of sense.
All right, bro. I kept you for an hour. I appreciate you, man. So before we log it off, before we end it up, so tell people where they can find you on Twitter. Talk about like upcoming products and stuff like that. Drop it down.
Yeah, man. Joe Castro at Philly TP. Definitely follow me on Twitter. Philly the podcast on YouTube. But nah, man, if you guys are watching, this is on both channels, right? If you guys are watching on my channel, definitely, like I said, go give a follow, a like, a subscribe to what they're doing over at Full Press, because this is a really good friend of mine. I enjoy having them on. I don't bring many people on with me and James, as you guys can tell. This was one guy that, I felt confident doing it because I know he knows his stuff. So it's always a blessing being able to be on here. As far as things coming up, next month, I'm starting a new job. And it's going to be amazing. It's going to be the most beautiful thing. A lot of opportunities coming up. And I hate having to keep secrets, but I have to. But just watch out for next month. I promise you guys it's going to be amazing. I appreciate you so much, George. And I appreciate everybody tuned in, man, for real.
That's awesome, man. I love to hear you being successful, man. I'm always rooting for people, and I root for you for real, bro. So likewise for Joe, man. Joe's good people. I've known him for a couple of years. If you guys are Commander fans, go follow him at Philly, the podcast TP for his Twitter. Awesome content creator. If you love the NFC East, the best of enemies on Sunday mornings is definitely a must follow, a must watch. It's hilarious. They have the best intro in the podcast game. I'll tell you that right now. It's awesome.
Yeah. Now James is the man.
Jesus the man. So guys, definitely follow me on Twitter at Carmi21. Definitely like and subscribe to the channel. I love that, guys. Full Press Commanders podcast with George Carmi. Other than that, guys, I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace out.